Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you back here for Storytime with Coach. I was blessed to have the opportunity to coach high school students and younger for quite a few years. Over that time, eventually it became something of a team tradition. The kids would say, "Coach, tell us a story," while we were doing practice. And so they got to hear stories of my life. Some of the stories are funny, some of the stories have a message or a meaning. Some of them are meant to be encouraging, and some of them are meant to say, hey, don't go down this road. But there is significance in all of them, and they all actually did happen to me. One note about how I talk about these: I'm going to do this extemporaneously, meaning going to do very little editing. You're hearing the story as I would have told it to them, and now I'm telling it to you. Before one can fly in the Navy as a pilot or a navigator, you have to have a commission as an officer. Now, there used to be three ways to do that. You could go to the academy, you could go to ROTC at a college, or you could go to AOCS, or Aviation Officer Candidate School. Now, AOCS isn't an option anymore, but it was in the 80s when I went through. AOCS was run by a commanding officer who was a Navy commander, but the drill instructors were all Marines. Now, Marines only believe in a handful of things. The first one is Semper Fi, always faithful. And the second one is to make everything that they do and everything anyone else does around them as hard as is humanly possible. If it doesn't hurt when you're doing it, there is no value in doing it at all. AOCS was no exception. Upon arrival at AOCS, the candidate would spend the first week doing all the mundane and miscellaneous things that have to get done to make sure that you're ready to go through training. Even though you've had a medical screening and you've passed all of the tests to be there, they're going to go through your paperwork and make sure that everything is taken care of. And then you're going to go to Naval Aerospace Medical Institute, or NAMI, which we called it then, and you're going to get your medical checked again. So you're going to get a complete flight physical before you start training. That takes up the first week. Then that will take you into Tuesday. Tuesday night you get your head shaved, and that's your last chance to go home. If you've decided, this doesn't look good to me, you can go home and nothing's, you go home the way you came. If, however, you decide to stay, you're going to get your head shaved Tuesday night. Wednesday morning you meet the drill instructor. Tuesday night, right after lights out, the candidate officers played the REM song, "It's the End of the World as We Know It." And then several of them came on in their voices trying to sound intimidating and scaring and going, "Poopies, poopies, your time in hell starts tomorrow. Poopies, your time in hell starts tomorrow." A poopy was a candidate who hadn't actually become a candidate yet. You weren't considered a candidate until you'd been there and outposted through the drill instructor after the first 3 days. The first 3 days basically being pain, more pain, PT, pain, exercise, pain, drilling, pain, and more pain. And lots of yelling interspersed amongst all of it. Black Wednesday came. The klaxon went off and they got us up and we got on the line. And for the next hour and a half, we did nothing but PT and nothing but PT. Getting yelled at the entire time by the drill instructor. One of the guys in my class actually counted the number of push-ups that we did before breakfast that morning, and it was in the thousands. I don't know why he did that. Maybe that was his self-defense mechanism, but I believe it. When our drill instructor had decided he'd had enough fun for the morning and he was starting to get a little bit hungry, he took us over to the chow hall, which was the beginning of another incredible experience of 20 times trying to get into the chow hall because there's a specific way to go in the door. And of course we couldn't do it right, and that meant more PT out in the grass. We finally got inside and we went through the chow hall line. Chow hall line for the first 3 days as a poopy is a sight to behold. There's a line of servers behind the counter, and you go through literally as fast as you can, shoulder to shoulder. You shuffle through sideways, just literally you're almost running. And the servers are armed with a ladle in each hand, and as you go by as quickly as you can, they're basically scooping with each of the ladles and throwing food at your plate and slapping it down and basically trying to hit the plate. You get what you get, and you keep right on going. you make it over to the table, and of course, there's a whole way of getting up and sitting down at the table too, which we got to do 20 or 30 times before we finally got to eat. A quick point of clarification, I mentioned plates here a second ago, and we did have plates, but they were on trays. So they were throwing food at our trays, not actually at our plate, because most of it didn't even hit the plate. Back to the breakfast table. There's no let up in the harassment while you're eating. You're no longer with just one drill instructor. You've got all the drill instructors from all the other companies, and they all get to yell at you the same way. And a couple of things happen while you're there. Because you're doing so much exercise those first few days, the bottom line, the rule is that you'll drink 4 glasses of water with every meal. Well, the way they've got it set up is they'll come by and they would yell at you and demand that you drink your water. And as soon as you drank your water, a candidate officer would come by and fill your glasses up again. And they'd scream at you to drink your water. So you were getting glass after glass after glass after glass of water. And this is all happening at like 3 times speed. So there's food everywhere. There's water just getting spilled out everywhere on the tables, because they're not even bothering to pick up the glasses. They're reaching over and pouring from the pitchers, and they're going as fast as they can to keep up with the demands of the drill instructors. So it's just food, water everywhere. It's a max stress. It's a total stress to be there trying to eat and drink and comply with what the drill instructors are yelling at you. All of this is, of course, by design. A lot of people think that AOCS was intended to make officers, and as Commander Osborne, who was the commanding officer when I was there, told us later on when we were briefed, the mission of AOCS is not to make you aviators or to make you officers. The mission of Aviation Officer Candidate School is attrition. Their goal is to get you to quit. And the drill instructors thrive on it. They are totally into trying to get you to quit. So they're constantly coming up with the ways to torture you psychologically to get you to quit. And as Commander Osborne said, well, if you can't handle it here, I don't want you flying with friends of mine behind the boat, where you can't just reach up and quit. You either get aboard the boat or you're fish food. And having done it for 20 years after that, I have to agree with him. But back to the story. As our time for breakfast came to a close, the drill instructors were screaming at everybody, "We do not waste food in the Marine Corps! We do not waste food in the Marine Corps!" And the guy sitting next to me, who to this day I don't know who it was, I never did find out. As the drill instructors are going by yelling this, he throws up in his plate everything that he had just had for breakfast. The water, I don't remember what it was, pancakes and eggs and whatever it was for breakfast. It's all back on his plate. Well, now the drill instructors all see this, and it's not just one of them, it's all of them. There are 3 drill instructors behind him, one directly behind him and one on his left and one on his right. The one on his left is basically mashed up against me and is screaming in his left ear. The guy on the right screaming in his right ear. The guy in the back screaming at his head. There are 3 drill instructors on the other side who were pushing candidates over face first, basically into their plates, screaming at the top of their lungs at this guy, "We don't waste food at the Marine Corps. We don't waste food in the Marine Corps." And so he's got at least 6 drill instructors screaming at the top of their lungs at him that we don't waste food in the Marine Corps. So what does he do? He starts shoveling it back in. Well, here I am. I'm like getting basically beat up by this drill instructor's hip and side as he's thrashing about next to me. Then I'm just trying to be the wall. I just be as small as I can because I don't want to be in on this. I don't want to have any part of it. But I'm thinking to myself, it's like, dude, they can't kill you. But they were screaming at him, and he shoveled a good hunk of it right back in. And before we knew it, we were headed outside to do more PT in the grass. And about half of us threw up breakfast in the grass. And that was welcome to the drill instructor, welcome to breakfast in the Marine Corps, and have a nice day. The rest of your time here at AOCS has just begun. Now, I told the kids on the team this story just because they'd get a laugh out of it, and a lot of them would probably think it was unbelievable. And I got to admit it, if I hadn't lived through it, I would believe it was unbelievable too, but that's the way it was. Their goal was to get us to quit. But as you ponder this story today after getting a laugh out of it, what things get in your way? and what things keep you from accomplishing the things that you want to do with your life. There's always something out there that causes you fear or can cause you anxiety or can keep you from keeping your eye on the ball to work towards whatever goal it is that you have. I mean, we all showed up at AOCS wanting to fly. That's why we went there. And we were willing to put up with what was dished out, at least what we thought was going to be dished out. And then when we got there, we found out, guess what? It's a heck of a lot worse than you thought it was going to be. But what are you willing to do? Think about this. You as an individual who's listening to this story, what are you willing to do to get the things that you want in this life? What are you willing to do to accomplish it? And I don't mean bad things, I don't mean breaking the law or anything, but what kind of discomfort, what kind of self-motivation do you have? What are you willing to tolerate to, in the short term, to get something in the long term that you desperately want? I admit that there are plenty of times at AOCS and other times in my life where I've been completely stressed out to the max. And some of those stories will come out here and I'll tell them. But I always fell back on knowing God and saying, God, I cannot survive this. I need your help because there's no way that I can do it myself. There is no way that I can make this, and I need your help. And I've been the recipient of numerous miracles that just cannot be explained. And, not to get all metaphysical, but there are things that just cannot be explained that have happened in my life, except to just say, God. I hope this story gave you a laugh and put a smile on your face for how crazy it was. But I also hope that it gives you encouragement, because when you reach your limit and there just isn't anything left of you to keep going, or you're just too scared to move, you know what? God can step in and take care of that problem, and he can get you through anything. And again, some of the stories that I'm going to tell later on, they're totally God moments where I had nothing, and yet I got totally taken care of and I made it through. And I have no other explanation. So be encouraged that there's a King of Kings out there who, if you ask him, he'll take care of you and he'll carry you when you can't do it yourself. I hope you guys enjoyed this story and got a laugh out of it, and that it is an encouragement for you today. And I hope wherever you find yourself that it's an awesome day, and have a good one. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.